Hi, everyone, and a big welcome to all of you joining us today for today's webinar, How to Win Long-Term Relationships with Gen Z Account Holders. Generation Z is poised to turn the financial services industry on its head, and it's going to require banks and credit unions to transform the way they engage with customers and members. My name is Virginia Heyburn. I'm Director of Research, Insights, and Advocacy with Engage FI. And joining me today to discuss the future of financial services through the lens of Generation Z are Craig Garofalo, Executive Vice President, Chief Operating Officer, and Chief Loan Officer at Kennebec Savings Bank in Maine, and Ty Griffin, Senior Director of Strategy and Design at Alkami. And before I ask Craig and Ty to share a little bit about their background, just a quick introduction of Engage FI. We're a blended team of consultants, educators, integrators, and advocates. We focus on guiding financial institutions through vendor assessments, system evaluations, and end-to-end mergers and conversions. We've completed over 1,500 successful projects so far, and the idea is to position our bank and credit union clients for optimal agility and speed. Personally, I've spent the last 26 years in the financial services technology industry. And prior to my time with Engage FI, I spent 15 years at Fiserv in different strategy roles. I've been very fortunate to spend most of my career working with C-level financial services executives to help them achieve results by aligning technology strategy with their long-term growth plans. I'm excited to be here today with you to talk about ways to reach this new generation. Craig, can you share your background and tell us a little bit more about Kennebec Savings Bank?
Sure, thanks, Virginia, and I'm very happy to be here as well. So like Virginia said, my name is Craig Garofalo, and I'm coming to you from Augusta, Maine. Proud to be working for a mutual savings organization up here in Augusta that's been headquartered since 1870 right here in the capital of Augusta. On a personal note, have 4 children, a couple which meet this generational standard, so I'm excited to be positioned in this organization to work forward at how we're going to bank this generation, and some thoughts around what we're doing here up in May. So thanks for having me.
I'm Ty Griffin, Senior Director of Strategy and Design here at Alkami. I've been here for roughly about 3 years now. I have over 20 years of design experience. It goes back into working at ad agencies over the years into the property management software. I had the opportunity to work in the fintech space with Barclays Bank as well. And I'm here today at Alkami, and my role here is to lead up the UX UI team. We're a team of designers and researchers and front-end developers. And our goal here is to build a platform that allows our FIs to do things like promote and build a platform that allows Gen Zers to bank on it. So I'm glad to be here today and excited about the conversation.
Thank you, Ty, and thank you, Craig. Just a couple of housekeeping items. In the chat, please feel free to ask questions. We are going to get to your questions, hopefully every single one of them during the course of the webinar. So please go ahead and send those over to us. And also, just so you know, we will be sending out the recording to everybody after the webinar. So that's the number one question we usually get. You will receive the recording. Now, Craig, I wanted to ask you to talk a little bit about the financial services perspective here, because anytime there is a new technology challenge that we are presented with, the questions, I think, are first and foremost, how does a bank or a credit union deal with the kind of innovation that is necessary in order to pivot? And I thought it would be great for you to go into a little bit more detail on your bank, what your current position is, and where you're looking to go.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Virginia. I think when folks think about Maine, they think tech, high tech, sort of like a Silicon Valley of the East. Maybe a little levity to start, but we at Kennebec Savings Bank, we started in 1870. And what we've always been tech forward. So we try to be a high tech, high touch organization here. And we've been on a journey for the last few years trying to look at our technology, both behind the scenes as well as customer facing, and been working on that journey. and decided a few years back that we really needed to work on, our customer experience. Like many community banks, we were with a sort of legacy provider on one of their sort of canned solutions as it pertained to digital banking. And a few years back, we made a decision to do a search and ultimately partnered with Alkami and went live in October of 2022 and haven't looked back, and really excited about what they've been able to do to help us on our journey as we think about, this next generation and really all customers. We looked at that challenge and said we really needed to look at, another partner who could help us get where we wanted to go. So we have around 35,000 customers. That measurement is always interesting to look at, but around 35,000 customers, and have been able to get about 21,000 of them to be using our digital solutions. And since we've gone to Alkami, we've seen a big uptick in our App Store rating and also really engagement of those customers on our digital services. So we'll talk more about what we've been doing and how that's been working. But as we think about technology and think about this next generation, it's very important in our long-term strategy as to how we're going to meet the customer needs of, this next generation, but also some of the other generations as well.
Thanks, Craig, for that. And amid all this talk of Generation Z, I think it's a great idea if we actually define who they are. Some of us have Generation Zers at home. Craig, you mentioned that you did. I have two as well. We learned so much from them. But if we look really at what defines the generation and what has shaped them, we think of some of the big events that have transpired during the course of Generation Z coming of age, often maybe accused of not having experienced any big challenges like the baby boomers or millennials or Gen X. Quite the contrary, Generation Z has had to deal with COVID-19. They've had to deal with rising inflation, which we haven't seen in quite a long time, cyber threats, the explosion of social media, and this generation really living their lives on their devices, and also political unrest. Not to mention, this is a generation that is experiencing arguably the most prolonged period of uncertainty as pertains to the economy, politics, the global economic environment, you name it. And so as a result of that, this is a generation that has unique financial services needs that we really do need to pay attention to. And this generation is also quite large, 70 million people born between 1997 and 2012. By 2026, this will be the largest generation. So every financial institution has to be paying attention to the needs and wants of younger people. Even if this is not a big part of your customer or member base today, it will most certainly be within a short period of time. This generation represents 40% of U.S. consumers, 25% of the U.S. workforce. When we think about what we need to do as an industry to reach Generation Z, it's not just about reaching them to provide service to them, but to reach them, to hire them, to retain them, to make certain that Generation Z feels very comfortable working for our financial institutions and that they stick around, because this is a generation also that doesn't demonstrate the same kind of loyalty that prior generations did. This generation also only has an 8-second attention span. This is compared to 12 seconds just one generation prior, the millennials. And you may know this about your own children. I have 2 millennial daughters. They're so different from my Generation Z children. So 8-second attention span. We have to get their attention quickly with our marketing. It has to land quickly and profoundly in order for them to really want to do business with us. And this is a generation that is experiencing the highest rates of anxiety and depression than any other generation. And this is, of course, a huge concern for financial institutions. And it's also, I think, an area that we need to pay attention to, because who else is better positioned than banks and credit unions to provide the kind of support that this generation is really asking for? 2 out of 5 young people have 2 or more jobs, clearly struggling to survive financially. Again, inflation, wage growth has not kept up with inflation, student loan debt that needs to now be repaid. The interest rates are higher than they've been in a long time. So big existential questions about, how do I get my car refinanced? Will I ever be able to buy a house? These are things that we really do need to pay attention to as an industry. And then keep in mind, it's not just about financial anxiety and financial strain and stress. Globally, about $60 trillion is going to be transferred, just wealth transfer in the next 10 years. Here in the United States, probably about 30 trillion. And so as an industry, we really do have a lot of strategies and technologies we need to put in place in order to appeal to this more demanding generation. Looking at some of the financial traits, I find it very interesting to look at the studies that out there that show the type of functionality that young people are asking for, right? It's the doing part of banking. I want to be able to turn on and off payment cards. I want to be in control of my financial services life and the experience that I have with my financial institution. I want modern online account opening, and that means no docs. It means no hassle. It means no friction whatsoever, right? Online loan origination, same thing. I want to be able to go out very quickly within minutes, apply for a loan. I don't want to have to enter information twice. I don't want to have to encounter a situation where I actually have to print out a piece of paper, sign it, take it to a physical location. I want faster payments. I want them to be real time. In fact, not only do I want them, I won't be able to understand why you can't provide those in this day and age. This is the thinking of a younger person. And then in terms of what young people need, this is the emotional aspect of banking, right? I want to feel good about my finances. I want to master financial planning. I want to be able to budget and save. I want the tools to be able to do that effectively. Integrated investing, give me a place where I can not only save and bank and make payments, but I can also make the types of investments that I want to make in order to build that financial future that is my dream. This is clearly something that young people are focusing on. In fact, if you go out to TikTok, I found this very interesting in the last month or so. The biggest trend in financial services with young people on TikTok is #loud budgeting. Young people are getting really excited about making smart financial decisions, saving money, certainly not wasting any money. And it's something as complex as, well, how do I get started in investing? And it's something as simple as, which financial institution is going to let me bank with them and not pay the fees, right? It's like that. So the influencers have a strong voice in this generation. Young people are really looking for a way to reduce their financial anxiety. And importantly, for community banks and credit unions, this is a generation that wants to do business with an aligned brand. Young people are demonstrating more than any prior generation that they want to do business with companies that are active in their communities, that care about the people that live and work in the area around the financial institution. So this is something that we also need to keep in mind. It's not just about going digital. It's also being digitally active, digitally excellent, and also locally engaged. These Gen Zers care about that. They're financially concerned, they're money savvy, they're monumentally self-reliant, and importantly, they are entrepreneurial. 70% of Gen Zers say that they want to be an entrepreneur. That compares to 50% in the millennial segment. So how do we craft financial services solutions that not only appeal to the consumer in the Gen Z segment, but also the business owner, the entrepreneur? That world of where business banking and consumer banking are entirely separate, those days are over. So then looking forward to how we reach young people, the question we have to ask is, why is it so darn difficult for traditional banks and credit unions to appeal to younger people? What's happening? Well, one thing to note is that the fintech banks that have really been quite successful in recent years, from day one, they were focused on young people. They did a lot of research to understand the needs and wants of young people. And as a result of that, we have about 150 million consumers that are using fintech banks. It could be for just a sliver of financial services, but they are using them. The market share growth in fintech banks, about 120 of them maybe at this point, is just growing exponentially. You think of companies like Chime and SoFi. Arguably, those are traditional financial institutions now, right? SoFi in particular, because they have a charter. So there's a lot that's going on there. The other aspect is that Gen Z is not particularly loyal to their financial institutions. In other words, if they're not getting what they want from their bank or credit union, they will very quickly go somewhere else. Switching costs have come down with technology. It's very easy to move from one financial institution to another. What they're looking for is, yes, I want an aligned brand. I want a bank or credit union that is engaged in their community, but only if they provide that outstanding digital experience that I need to do all the things that I want to do, right? That we just talked about. So this is a real challenge. How do we reach young people? They want to have the simplicity of working with a single financial institution, but if they don't get that, then they're more than willing to work with multiple apps, and that's why we have this fragmentation of in the fintech space. We have fintech banks, we have traditional banks, credit unions, and young people are willing to shop around. I'm going to stop right there and see if Craig and Ty want to jump in with any comments here.
Yeah, I can chime in. Thanks, Virginia. I think you just articulated exactly the challenge that we've been thinking about here at Kennebec Savings Bank is how do we interact with these folks and this group of people who think about financial services so differently than some of the rest of us may, and what is it that we need to provide? And we'll touch on this a little bit about how the bank that I work for is kind of uniquely positioned to help with some of these pieces, but also still, it's a challenge to make sure that we can meet these customers where they want to be. We found that this generation is, to your point, less loyal, and they may say a basis point, for example, on savings, it's no more difficult for them to do business with one of the banks you mentioned, a Chime, for example. And if I get 10 basis points more, why would I or why wouldn't I just do that? And as money movement's gotten simpler, it's just made that a bigger challenge for us. So it's made us look back to say, what are the experiences? How can we leverage what we have as the kind of hometown local community bank to meet this generation where they want to be and combine it with the services that they're expecting? And I'll touch on that a little bit more as we move forward.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Craig. I think some of the challenges that we're going to be facing as well is more how we structure our financial institutions from a technology perspective. And I think we're going to see that come more to the forefront on how we operate. I also think that our Gen Zers have this expectation, like you said, that there's no loyalty necessarily to the financial institution, but more to the experience and the service and the delivery of it. And so we have to really, strap down and really figure out how do we deliver, value fast through these digital channels. One thing to think about is our Gen Zers are going to be very, very, very focused on the outcomes. And so as we, craft messages and deliver information to them, we have to kind of show them the big picture up front. And we're seeing that in some of the user experience testing, the data that we're getting here on the user testing side of things.
Yeah, I love that, Ty, the way you said that, that they're focused on the outcome. So our messaging really has to be around, why? Why do I need this? Why is this important? So yes, I love that. Now I want to go into some of the strategies that financial institutions can put in place in order to reach young people and really have a conversation around that. Because understanding the generation is one thing, engaging in the kind of reinvention that's necessary to actually appeal to the generation and importantly keep them over time, that's another matter altogether. And it's not all just technology, right? I mean, social responsibility and inclusivity, this is a big deal. You see here, some of the statistics that we have on the screen. And Craig, I'll invite you to comment a little bit on this, but Gen Z really cares about your values, cares about what you're doing in the community, what you're doing to support local businesses, for example. All of this matters a great deal to young people. And 82% of account holders want to do business with companies that align with their values. That's a huge number. 75% have parted ways with a brand over value conflicts. Craig, are you experiencing or seeing anything like this in your local community?
Yeah, thanks for we certainly are, and actually it started really as an employer. We had a lot of folks express interest in coming to work for us, and as we interviewed candidates, the tables would turn a little bit more to have us explain, what are you doing as an employer and as an organization along a lot of these social responsibility and inclusivity sort of topics. And that was, you rewind 5 or 6 years ago, that started to come into our purview and really made us stop and think about, if our potential employees are asking these questions, our customers are probably thinking along the same lines. And I mentioned at the top that we're a mutual organization, and that it really has helped us is that we've been able to leverage that message a little bit more. Nobody owns Kennebec Savings Bank, so we exist for our customers, we exist for our community, and we exist for our employees. We've really been able to leverage that messaging as an employer as well as for our customers to talk to them about why we're here and explain things like, we don't have shareholders, so as instead of a dividend payment or something that might go to that group, we target 10% of our income towards community dividends. And we, last year gave $1.5 million back to the communities we serve. And that sort of messaging has really resonated with, both potential employees as well as our customers. So coupling that, we kind of are in a nice position that we already have that here. And, a lot of folks, they're growing up and, our name is on every one of their Little League t-shirts, and it's on every scoreboard, and it's on every feeder bulletin when you're doing your school play, and being able to leverage that, hey, we're here, we're in your community. We have that kind of in our back pocket. And we realize that now that we've got that piece, what can we do to also meet them and work through the technology piece to make sure that meets their expectations as well.
Yeah, I like the way you said that. And something just came to mind, Craig, as you were sharing your perspective. It's so important also to bring young people into strategic discussions. So, hiring young people, but also making them part of the decision-making process. They're the ones who are going to be using the technology. They really understand what their generation is going to want and need from a financial institution. So putting them into positions of influence in design, in strategy, even on the management team to help shape the direction of the financial institution, that goes a long way.
It does. And I would add, Virginia, one thing we did here was we formed an advisory committee that was a group of younger folks. And we just met every month with some various members of leadership. And we picked a different topic, benefits, which is a little not the topic of this webinar, but talk to this group about what benefits, where I might value a 401k dearly. Do they look at it the same way? And then we talk about, the services we're offering our customers the next month. And we talk about employee vets, et cetera, et cetera. And really, to your exact point, getting their perspectives really opened our eyes to making sure that we're thinking along the same lines that they are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with the World Wide Web, Gen Z have a front seat to seeing the world and the needs of it. And so social responsibility is going to rank pretty high on our list. Having the opportunity to use that same digital channel or the web to associate or link themselves to something that's going to allow them to feel like they're operating with purpose, banking with purpose, saving with purpose, making, sound decisions. And so I think, once again, that digital channel is an opportunity for our Gen Zers to take social responsibility.
Ty, you were talking about starting with the why, right? The why, the outcome matters, and then the purpose, outcome and purpose. I really like that theme. And a big part also, I think, of connecting with Generation Z is seeing them and hearing them. And that's what they want. They want to be seen. They want to be heard. They don't want to be just a number. They want tailored, personalized service and advice. And that's where data really becomes so essential. We've spoken for, decades now about the need for clean data in the hands of the people that need it at the point of engagement with the customer member. And now we're really in a position to accomplish that. So shifting gears just a little bit, transaction data insights. Gen Z wants to feel a sense of belonging. They want to feel seen and heard. They want to have services that are tailored to them. And it can be something as simple as them using live chat as an example and saying, I'm thinking of going to, let's say, the Taylor Swift concert in a month and a half. Can I afford that? Have the financial institution respond, utilizing the data that they have available to them. It's maybe even thinking about the mobile channel, right? That young people spend about 8 hours a day on their mobile devices, and mobile banking, this, Ty, probably better than anybody in your role. It's the mobile channel is in a state of transformation from being a transaction channel to being a sales channel, where we can actually be in communication with customers and members. Anything that you have to add here, Ty?
Yeah, absolutely. Transaction data and insights are critical. It's really the vehicle that allows, the experience to speak, to the end user. And so our Gen Zers have so much information that they've surrendered to the World Wide Web. And as they surrender that information, they expect a personal or more intimate response back. So they're going, if I've surrendered all this information, then you should know something about me. And if you know something about me, then you should know how to speak to me. And so that expectation is really heightened within our Gen Zers. And so using transactional information is critical, right? And so they're trusting you with their finances, and they're really kind of looking for the financial institution to go to that next level and say, well, what do I do with this, right? And they're focused on growing their income, right? And so, but they don't really have the insights on what to do with it. So taking this data and being very contextual within the user experience. For example, you may have a Gen Zer make a transfer, a user make a transfer, give some contextual insights on what they could do with, the rounding up of the money within that transfer. And so, I think where we're at today is we're more just shooting out, marketing and campaign ads, but being more contextual and using their data to be really insightful about what they need. They're gonna look to that, and I think that's really how you're gonna kind of grow that relationship with those users.
From my perspective as the bank, this is where I'm really excited about our journey with Alkami. And to a lot of the bankers on this webinar, they understand we sit on just a treasure trove of information. And one of the challenges is being able to leverage that and then act on it. And my team here, one of our main initiatives over the past few years in starting this journey is making sure we don't ask customers questions we already know the answer to, which is so fundamental, yet so challenging at some times. And what we've done with Alkami is help position us to stop asking those questions, but then also take it to the next level to start, answering questions before the customer even asks it. And I think that's what Ty is speaking to, is like, we need to know these customers so well, especially with this generation where they're so used to, companies anticipating their needs before they maybe even know they need it. That as a bank, we are well positioned with the amount of information we have on hand to be able to do that. It's just a matter of taking some of these systems and having the right channel to be able to present them to those customers. And I think from where I sit, we're really excited about what we've done so far and where we're going to be able to go in the near future too.
And that kind of anticipating of need, that has to live somewhere, right? So it's that next level digital offering. Ty, that you made this point as well. There's a whole new level we have to get to as an industry to be able to accommodate this level of knowing of the customer or member. Ty, can you comment a little bit on where you see that next level going?
Absolutely. As I look at this particular slide here, digital account opening is going to be one of the most critical areas we're going to want to focus in on. And that's something that, Alkami right now is hyper focused on. And so this is really the gateway of getting on the, your digital banking platform. And so as we think about that, today you can open up a Apple card. They only ask you a few questions, and I promise you it won't be your name because they know you. They may ask you, what is your current income, or update your income. And within a few screens, maybe 1, 2, or 3 screens, you're actually able to use that digital card today. And that's becoming more and more of the expectation. And so as we look at financial institutions, we want to get to a place where the digital experience is not an add-on to the relationship that has started within a branch or somewhere else. It's more of I've downloaded the app, I've opened the account on the app, and I've started banking on the app, because that's how our Gen Zers use these experiences. They go right to the app store and they start building a relationship with these tech companies. And so that's going to be critical. We want to be very frictionless in that. And so from onboarding and digital account opening into online banking needs to be super seamless. One example I'll highlight is we were going through and reevaluating our digital account opening here. And one of the things I saw there was that we had beneficiaries as a question on the digital account opening. And I thought about that, and I go, as we try to focus on a younger demographic, that's not really required at the time. The goal is to get the account and build the relationship and secure the relationship. And so we need to probably streamline and simplify what's required to open an account and what's required to get online, and then have functionality, features, and channels that allows us to grow that relationship once we get those users online. Another area here would be seamless experience. They're looking for fast, a few clicks. They want to make sure that it's really easy to use. The expectation is really high. The average person has over 100, 200 apps on their phone. And so those other apps are creating patterns, functionality that the user is getting really acclimated to. And we need to be aware of those and fall in line with those. I know there's going to be some challenges around the governance when it comes to our financial institutions and how we operate around that and keep the experience seamless. But I think we need to be aggressive there and find ways of doing that. And the last thing is not to build our experience the way we operate as an organization. We want to think about that as well. We want to disassociate ourselves. We may operate in one manner, loan origination and account opening. Those can be two different things, but to the end user, that's one thing, that's one relationship. So some things to think about there.
And I wanted to just briefly talk a little bit about live chat. So important, right? Because you think about the average Gen Zer calling into the IVR or contact center. They don't like to spend time on hold. They don't like delays, any sort of hassle. And there are two motivations, right, for live chat. It's to appeal to that younger demographic that wants that instant service. And oh, by the way, all of us are wanting that nowadays too. But it's also that contact centers are going to be in a state of transformation. We have generative AI capabilities that are introducing all kinds of efficiencies for contact centers, where financial institutions typically have a lot of headcount, a lot of overhead, and also a tremendous amount of turnover. So lots of reasons to invest in better service there. Let's move on and talk a little bit about communicating with Gen Z. It's one thing to give them a platform that excites them and gets them really interested in doing business with a bank or credit union. It's another matter to build effective messaging and communication into our engagement models. Ty, I know you have some thoughts here, and I wanted to just ask you to weigh in.
Absolutely, Virginia. Gen Zers have been, juggling these digital signals since day one, and there's a lot of them, and there's more coming continuously. And so, like I said before, they upload so much information that the expectation for a more crafted, personalized response is critical. And so there are assistants out there such as, Siri and Alexa. And one thing that those digital assistants do is they make a more intimate conversation with technology and a huge billion-dollar organization, but it doesn't feel like that when you're interfacing with them. An example of that is when you're talking to Siri, you're actually talking to Apple, a billion-dollar organizations with millions and millions of users, but it doesn't feel like that. And so the way we communicate with our Gen Zers need to kind of follow that path to some degree. Some examples of that will show up in the user experiences. The way we communicate, for example, if you're having a user fill out a form, we've moved from titling things and being very literal. We've moved to that, tell us about yourself. Well, what we found in the data as well is when you say us, that means a group of people. And when I'm putting in my social security number and how much money I make, I really don't want to tell us about, I want to tell you about that. And so we started to focus on, say, tell me about your income, your employment. And so just those small changes there to make it feel more intimate and personal with the end user is super critical. And so I would really say that it's important for us to create a more intimate language and tone when communicating, and also leverage the capability of storytelling. And storytelling is super critical, as it really allows us to really see the big picture as end users. And so sometimes we'll convey a message as opposed to telling a story that drives a thought that leads to possibly a click and a conversion at the end of the day. And so as we craft our marketing materials around Gen Zers, we need to think about telling a compelling story. And I think that goes right back into a couple of slides back to social responsibility. How does that connect with my savings account? Like, how do you connect my savings with social, responsibility? So telling a story would be critical as well.
Yeah, I would just echo what Ty's saying. It's exactly what we're seeing here, and it's very fundamental at this point what we're doing. But even our legacy system had the ability to interact with us, but moving to the new channel through Alkami, we have just some subtle tweaks to that. We've seen exponential growth in customers interacting with us, between the app and or through online channels. Just it's very similar to what we could do before, but just some subtle tweaks with the expertise of what Alkami's provided. Just the way we position that to these customers has really, really changed and shown that customers have been looking for this and just weren't able to find it beforehand or didn't feel as comfortable as they do now. And it's similar to my own experience where I won't, if I have to order from a restaurant and it involves picking up the phone and calling them, I'm not going to do it. And, if I can order online, then yes, that's where I'm going to go. And we've tried to put that sort of thought process into what we're doing and make that engagement so it's comfortable. We talked to some of our customers, and they said their number one fear of coming into a bank is getting lost and talking to the wrong person. So we keep that in a mindset as we look for any experience we're trying to provide to these customers. And how can we alleviate some of these fears that may seem silly to some of us, but are exactly what they're feeling as these folks are trying to interact with us.
Absolutely. And when I think of languaging, imagine how much jargon we put on our customers and members. And my generation maybe is used to it. We put up with it. But a 25-year-old, when they're hit with, well, there are all these ways to move money. There's wire, there's bill pay, there's P2P, and then you make me pick the tab in an experience, right? Imagine, why do I need to know that? I just want to move money from point A to point B. Why do I have to know all of this, these technical terms? Take it away, move it behind the scenes. As we move forward, in these experiences, we can design them in a way where unnecessary, complicated language just isn't even made visible to the customer or member, keeping it as simple as possible. Another thing, when my son, he's 22 years old, he'll call me in a panic and say, Mom, the rental office is asking me for my routing number. What's that? It's just all foreign to him, and he can't understand why he can't just offer up his cell phone number. That's his expectation. And then the other thing too is, this generation is all about video. They're on social media hours a day. They're on TikTok. They're on Instagram stories. And to your point, Ty, they're telling stories. They appreciate a good story. And I think financial institutions can do a whole lot more to use video in their marketing, use video even within their digital experiences for tutorials, teaching young people about how to use financial services wisely, talk to them about the rollout of new digital features, and importantly, educate them, right? They're thirsty for that financial education that banks and credit unions are ideally positioned to provide. So Ty, I know that you made a few really important and wise points, and this slide really summarizes some of the things that you have said. Connecting the dots. How do you connect the dots for financial institutions to reach young people?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially connecting the dots is simple as associating an idea with another. And so, today, a user can go out and see a marketing campaign where it says a 6-month CD, 5%. Well, what does that mean? Well, what is a CD? And do I need a CD player? So something to really think about there, right? And so at the end of the day, we got to really think about, finding ways to say, hey, let's turn your $1,000 into $1,500 and help you start saving for a home. And so that starts to craft a story. Let us show you how we can do that. Now, behind the scenes may be a CD and some other ways of investing their money. And so connecting the dots is connecting it to the big picture. And like you said, Virginia, it really is taking all of those topics we just shared and pulling them all back together, leveraging the technology, the data insights, and how we're going to communicate and telling a story with all three of those is really where we're going to need to be focused in on if we want to connect the dots for our Gen Zers. Last but not least, I would say, articulating the bigger picture is critical. When people come into the experience, there's a bigger picture in mind. And so sometimes we're actually entertaining the symptoms of a bigger need in the experience. And so we should start to build a more intimate relationship with our users, once again, using that data as well, and kind of knowing that need, right? And we're seeing their direct deposit amounts grow larger. I've been with my primary financial institution since I was 18 years old, and I'm sure they're aware that my my actual income has gone up. And so I noticed that they market different things to me that they didn't market to me when I was 18. So having the financial institution grow with you and help you connect the dots along your journey is an expectation. Also, show the value up front, right? And so I know, Virginia, you mentioned, their attention span is really, really short, right? And so usually work backwards, right? And so, the approach that we should probably be thinking, here's the value in the big picture, and here's how we're going to get you there. And that may fall back into maybe a feature or product that you're promoting or selling. So essentially, I'm just saying, start with the outcome ultimately, because what that outcome does is it crafts a picture in our mind, right? And so if I can see myself in a fast car going down the highway with the top down, I go, okay, I love that picture. I fell in love with that thought in my mind. Now, how do I get there? And so that's what we want to do when it comes to connecting the dots for our Gen Z audience.
And there is an emotional aspect to it, right? Because young people are so focused on feeling good about their financial lives. They want to feel like they're in a position of power in terms of them being able to make good decisions to do things like buy a house, right? Buy a car, pay back that student loan debt, and grow in their financial lives. And a lot of this is about managing the financial stress that this generation is experiencing and helping them understand how a financial services feature or product or service is going to solve a problem that they are already aware of, or help them avert a financial problem in the future that they're not even thinking about yet.
It's just really echoing a lot of what Ty said there. And again, we're experiencing this here. It does come back to, Ty's example about the bank recognizing that his income has changed, right? Like I think that's consumer expectation across many generations. And, it's one thing to be able to recognize it. So as a financial institution, seeing that change happen, and then, proactively act upon that and have the tools and services to be able to get that in front of the consumers. And again, back to some of our earlier conversation, we know you as a customer, we value you as a customer, we're watching for you. And, in small town, in Maine, our customer expectation, they say, oh, I'm sure you saw that check that cleared my account yesterday, as if we are sitting watching all that. But that never is lost on me, that is the customer expectation. And I think that may not be as generational. I think customers expect us to really know who they are and meet them and exceed their expectations of understanding, their financial needs. And I think this generation is probably a little bit more acute with that. And I'm excited that we have some ability to do that today. And, the example of starting with the outcome, and I can go into my mobile application and say, I really need, $5,000 for this vacation. and set the goal, start with the outcome, and then you have that app help me make that happen. And that's really neat. And we're seeing, again, our customers really gravitating towards those type of services.
It's about building trust. And in this younger generation, building trust it does happen digitally as well. It is personal, no doubt about it. But that digital trust through live chat, through great utilization of data to demonstrate that we know them, that we understand what their needs are, helping anticipate their needs, and providing them with solutions to manage their financial wellness, to get advice, either solicited or unsolicited, using that great digital experience to offer that advice to this young generation. That's going to go a really long way in terms of cementing the relationship with the generational segment. Now we're coming to the end of our time together here today, and I've just loved this conversation on Gen Z. It's no doubt a transformative generation. It's certainly challenging all of us in the financial services industry, whether we are financial institutions or technology providers or consultants, to think differently about outreach, about onboarding, and certainly about ongoing engagement. It's as if this new badge of excellence in financial services is going to lie in delivering digital conversational advice. And I'm very optimistic about the future for banks and credit unions that take the reinvention mindset. Before we go to final thoughts, Ty and Craig, I want to show the audience that we have a poll. We would just love for you to go into the chat feature. You're going to see here the poll pop up. I'd like more information about Alkami. I'd like a demo of Alkami solutions. I'd like more information on Engage FI. Please just jump in here and click on the area where you would like more information. We would love to continue the conversation with you. And while you are doing that, Ty, any final thoughts on what we've discussed today?
Yeah, thank you, Virginia. Absolutely. Gen Zers are going to really help us define where we're going in the digital banking space. And so we need to keep our ears to the ground and really, make sure we capture and understand their needs and wants and desires. What I'll also say is that I think, once again, as financial institutions, how we leverage technology and data is going to become that much more critical. How we staff, how we communicate to our end users is going to be critical as well. I think the triad of connecting the dots when it comes to your technology, when it comes to how you communicate and how you leverage your digital insights, those three things together is going to be pivotal in moving forward and supporting Gen Zers in the years to come, actually.
You just said to think differently, and I think that's exactly right. As we move forward here, it's thinking differently, and it's listening to the folks. I mentioned our advisory committee here. Listen to what folks are looking for. Talk to your children. And similar to you, my 14-year-old, my oldest daughter, she knows what a routing number is, but I hope my 5-year-old never knows what a routing number is. And I hope we can remove that friction and really work towards making the banking world, the financial services world, what it can be for this generation who is used to frictionless experiences and are just expecting world-class service, as well as making sure that all the things we're providing to them exceed their expectations. So I'm excited where we are at Kennebec Savings Bank with the uniqueness of our organization in general, as well as some of the partners we have like Alkami are helping us to work towards that goal.
Fantastic. And just final thoughts from me. Tip number one, build fintech era talent, right? And we need to have the right people working on these strategies and think about all the fintech capabilities that are out in the marketplace that young people are really enjoying. Take a look at those. Build some of those strategies into what you're doing as well. You have to have the right people, make young people part of your strategy teams, and also take into account all of the great tips that came from Craig and Ty, and bake those into your technology assessments, right? That's a big part of the conversation is how future ready are your technology platforms to be able to do the kinds of things that we've talked about here today? And reinvention, happy reinvention. This is a time where business model change is going to be very important. There's a big CEO study out that shows that 45% of CEOs around the globe believe that they're going to have to change the way they do business in order to be competitive in the future. Reinvention is exciting. We're happy to be a part of it. Thank you to everyone for joining today. We really hope you found our discussion valuable and actionable. Connecting with Gen Z is going to take some retooling. And on behalf of my fellow presenters today, we look forward to being a part of the reinvention of financial services. Have a great rest of your day.